just two announcements. Pilar Bennett is with us this evening, and unfortunately she lost her beloved dog, Bigar, which means strength. And he was literally loyal and strong, and he endured and he protected her and Todd very, very much. And Hashem, God, should give her tremendous consolation and only comfort and only blessings. And we have with us a very special, a remarkable lady who I look up to, Mrs. Walt, Mr. Our beloved friend Dan Walt, who we love. And to know Dan is to love Dan. And his mother is with us all the way from New Jersey. And she exudes goodness and kindness, and Hashem should watch over her. Hashem should protect her. And I know in the heavens above, my dear friend, our dear friend Dan is looking down with nachas and with joy as he sees that we're learning Torah in his merits. And we continue to exude life in his honor. And we shall have only revealed good and only blessings and only nachas. And every mitzvah we do, and this is going to it's going to tie in with today's class. Every mitzvah we do is an expression of life that brings tremendous comfort, because life is all about making a difference, which we're going to see tonight. They tell a story about a poor man. He was horribly poor. He could barely scrap together food for his family, and he lived in very difficult circumstance in Krakow, in Poland. And this man, Isaac, he had a dream one night after another night, tried to forget about it, but there was no way out because the dream kept on coming back and back. And it came to him 3 nights, consecutive nights in a row. And he said, I don't have a choice. I have to act on this. What was the dream? The dream was that he dreamt that in Prague, under a castle, a bridge near the castle, there was a treasure which was hidden. And because, you have a dream, it just happens. But now, hey, we had it 3 nights in a row. It's got to be true. So Isaac, who was painfully poor, he put together whatever meager rations he had, and he traveled all the way to Prague. And there he went to the castle. He was so excited. He sees this vision. He knows this vision from his dream. He's excited. And he approaches the castle and he starts digging. And he's digging and digging. And a policeman comes and says, "What do you think you're doing? This is public property." And he says, "Sir, please forgive me, but I had a dream. And this dream, I dreamt that I had a treasure. And the treasure was waiting for me. I just had to come from Krakow to collect it." And the policeman started laughing. And the policeman said, "That's ridiculous. I had a dream that there was this Jewish man in Krakow called Isaac, and that he has a treasure hidden underneath his home." And when Isaac heard this, he ran back home. His heart didn't miss a beat. And he started digging, and he found a tremendous treasure. And tradition has it that he became very wealthy. And there is a synagogue, even to this day in Krakow, called Isaac Synagogue. And this is the story of Isaac, the man who had the dream, who traveled to Prague to realize that the treasure was in fact back in his home. in Krakow. My friends, this is a very powerful story because this story is what we are going to be discussing tonight. There is a tremendous treasure. There is a treasure which can be found deep within each and every one of us. This treasure is our soul. Last week, we learned how through meditation, we can push away a negative emotion. We can make an emotion which is attacking us, making us feel depressed, an impulse which is driving us crazy. We learned a technique last week, and it's on the video, and I'm happy to send the video to anyone who would like it. So this technique was very practical. And tonight, what we are going to learn, there's going to be two more. Labor Wolf, that expert from Melbourne, Australia, he is going to give two more meditation, tremendously spiritually generating and inspirational, and he is going to do two of those tonight as he did last week. And tonight we are going to begin by discussing what we are made out of. We are a soul, but we're also a body. And we mentioned in the first class there were three different types of meditation. One of them was Hispanidus, which the word bodad means alone. So this is a state of solitude. This is a way in which we can unleash the treasure which is inside each and every one of us. Each and every one of us has a special treasure. Every one of us, have the ability to soar higher and higher. Unfortunately, many times, there are disturbances, there's noise, there's external trappings. Tonight, through the meditation of Hispanidus, we are going to learn how to meditate, how to block out the noise, and how we are able to tap in to the spiritual energy that we have within each and every one of us. On page 38, we have exercise 2.1. So I'm going to ask you a question, and if you could message it into the board, it'll be easier. So to the message board, how would you define spirituality, and how might spirituality be experienced? Does anyone want to message in an answer? How do we define spirituality, and how might spirituality be experienced? Any takers, any ideas? Did she have anything in the message board?
Not yet. Let's give people a minute or two.
Okay. What is spirituality?
All right, we got some answers.
Yes, please. Take it away.
Derek Mortland, making the unconscious conscious.
Okay. That's very good. Making the unconscious conscious. Okay. Anything else?
Yeah. From someone else, when I experience the wonder of life.
Yeah. Appreciation.
And then Ellie Gatkar said connecting with God.
Okay. These are all great answers.
every moment, higher power, from Cheryl. Yeah, those are some things we got in.
So in 2005, there was a survey, and they found there was 27 different definitions. So tonight, what we are going to speak about is how do we unleash? How do we unleash? Oh, so I see here another one, learning to listen and to hear. That's very, very true. We are going to use a meditational skill to unleash the treasure which is buried within each and every one of us. Now, of course, we have explained that we explained last week that there is a constant battle. There is a constant struggle between the godly soul and also between the animalistic soul. The godly soul is divine. It's a piece of God. It cannot be seen, but is ever so present. We live in a world, a physical world. We are dominated by materialism. The word, and I'm sure you've heard me say this before, for world is olam. Olam. Olam means lahalim, to conceal. The word for world means to conceal because God is concealed in the world. I'm sure you remember the story. It's one of my favorite stories that the Baal Shem Tov once went out and the little kid was crying and they asked, why are you crying? And he said, because I'm hiding. So the student said, what's the big deal? And the Baal Shem Tov gave him a candy and he went on his way. The Baal Shem Tov said, this story is the story of God. God is hiding in the world and he is waiting for each and every one of us to find him. He's playing hide and seek. And just like that little boy is crying because people gave up looking for him, so too, God is symbolically crying because Hashem is waiting for us to find him. The word olam means lahalim, to conceal. Nature in Hebrew is teva. Teva means nature, and also the word means to drown. Tubu b'yam, we say in Oz Yashir, in the song of the Jewish people's miraculous escape from Egypt. We speak about Tubu b'yam suf, that the Egyptians sunk in the sea. Why is sinking nature? Because when something is immersed, cast into the water, you can't see it. It's beneath the water, but it's there. God also is in this world. Not necessarily can you see God, but God is very much here. He's hiding. Because we see physicality, because we are physical, therefore to us it's real. But the truth is, spirituality is just as real. Maybe you heard me tell the story. There was a little kid in Russia. And this little Jewish kid, every single day, he would go to school to hear in the 1970s the communist dogma that there is no God. And this little Jewish boy, Chaim, he goes into the classroom in grade 2, and the teacher says, class, do you see the blackboard? And the class says, yes, we see the blackboard. So the teacher says, there's a blackboard. Class, do you see the desk? And the class says, yes, we see the desk. So the teacher says, there's a desk. Class, do you see God? And the class says, no. So the teacher says, there is no God. This grade 2 brave Jew, Chaim, this little kid stands up. He says, class, comrades, do you see the blackboard? And the class says, yes, we see the blackboard. So Chaim says, there is a blackboard. Class, do you see the desk? And the class says, yes, I see the desk. So Chaim says there's a desk. Class, do you see the teacher's brain? The class says no, because the teacher has no brain. So in 1990, I went to Russia and I told that story. And a guy stood up and he said, you know what happened a week later after Chaim said that story? The teacher said, class, do you see Chaim? And the class said, no. And I won't tell you what the teacher said. But the point of the story is, just because you can't see something, it doesn't mean it doesn't exist. Electricity, you don't see. A personality, you don't see, but it's there. We have within ourselves a battle, a raging battle between our good inclination and our bad inclination. Not really bad, it's animalistic tendencies. And that is what we, each and every one of us, every moment we live through. A battle, a constant barrage of impulses, of temptations, of sadly, of detours which don't get us to where we need to go spiritually. Because we live in a physical world, physicality is more obvious to us. But can I tell you something, my friends? Who are we? We're essentially spiritual. We're a piece of God. That's who we are. We battle with our animalistic tendencies. But what we're going to do tonight is we are going to teach you a meditation technique where you will learn for the mind to control and to block out all the noise. There's a treasure buried beneath the rubble. So when you do Hispanidus, which means when you meditate and you block out the world, you're able to focus in on that treasure which is hidden. Okay, so having said that, we now are going to explain this. If you could please go to page 39 in the student book, it's exercise 2.2. Record as many words as you possibly can to accurately describe yourself. So please, go to page, for those of you who have the book, page 39, exercise 2.2, or you could just do it on the message board. Please, whoever wants to share with us, how would you define yourself? We just need whoever wants to do it. Just send in a bunch. And if you want to be anonymous, you can be anonymous. But just if you could send in a bunch of, and if you want to write it down for yourself, and at the end of the class we can go back and we can see if we progressed at all. Does anyone want to share some descriptions of themselves, and we don't have to name you? Any takers? We could do anonymous. Okay, Shia says smart.
I did.
Kind. Giving. Handsome. Anything else?
We got some coming in.
Okay.
From Derek. Okay, here we go. From Derek, the soul, the I am. That's from Derek.
Okay.
Cheryl says, motivated, strong, resourceful, kind, generous. Wendy Smith, humorous, intelligent, kind. From Roger, father, grandfather, husband, and son. From Wendy, mindful, helpful.
So this is very interesting. Do you use physical terminology to define yourself or spiritual? That's why they did this exercise. Now, by the end of the class, hopefully, we will have grown and we'll use virtues which are more spiritual. On page number 40, text number 1. Shia, can you please read?
Sure. Okay. God formed the human from the dust of the ground, and he breathed into the human nostrils the soul of life.
This is different, remarkably different from all other creation. And the reason is because all other creation, Hashem, God, just created the animal and that was it. Over here, God created the human from the dust of the ground. It didn't have a soul, and God breathed into Adam the soul. It's different. With other animals, the entity is everything. The personality, the instincts, the emotions, the intellect, it's all the same. There's no, of course, animals have a soul, of course, but it's a different soul. A human being has a godly soul and has a very physical soul. Now, that physical soul is very easy to relate to because we are physical. It's a body conscience. But that spiritual soul, when God breathed into Adam, it is a spiritual consciousness. The human being came in 2 stages, the physical and the spiritual. The book Tanya is all about the struggle between these 2 consciousness. You have the animalistic soul. What's the animalistic soul? I exist. I have to protect my domain. I have to make sure that I can perpetuate myself. I'm living here and now. It's about material gain and gratification. We all have that within us. That's called the nefesh habahamis, the animalistic soul. Now we have a spiritual soul, which God breathed into Adam. Why did God breathe into Adam? So it says in the Arizal, Isaac Luria says, when you breathe, and we're going to have a lot on this, when you breathe from your essence. And this is the idea of God breathing the soul, because that comes from the depths of God into Adam. Our life is a struggle between the body conscious and the soul conscious. And in fact, in text number 2, Shia, on page 40, we have in the prayer book a beautiful prayer. One of the first things we say every single morning, page number 40.
My God, the soul that you placed within me is pure. You created it, you formed it, you breathed it into me.
Do you know what the metaphor for the soul is, this pure entity? You see, you know what it is? What do we do on a yurt site? We light a candle, a flame. What's the idea of a candle? Why is the metaphor? Why does it say Shia on page 41?
Text 3.
Yes.
The human soul is the candle of God.
Does anyone want to answer with the message board? Why do you think that's why we light a yahrzeit candle when someone passes away on the anniversary of the death? Why do you think that the candle is the metaphor for the soul? Why do you think? Any ideas? This is a hard question. There's something very, very special about a flame, about a candle. What do you think it is? What's special about a candle? It's very unique. Okay, here we go.
All right.
Yes, that's very good. Excellent. Okay, Shia, read it. They're all right. This is excellent.
All right. We have subservient to God and happy to be, because the soul has a tendency to rise up. The light of God, flame goes up. It defies gravity. The flame reaches up, but must stay grounded to the wick. Give light.
This is excellent.
Color intertwined parts of the soul. The flame is not affected by gravity.
Okay, this is all excellent. Do you know what happens? The soul, like you say very rightly, it defies gravity. Besides for a gas, there's nothing else in the world. You can take a candle, make it go upside down, it's still going to burn up, the flame. Do you know why the soul wants to burn? Because what it's trying to do is, it's trying to escape. It doesn't want to exist. It wants to be spiritual. It wants to, very good. Maya says it wants to go to the original source. It wants to get rid of its essence. It wants to get rid of its being. The soul isn't happy being in this physical world. That's why fire burns things down. Why? Because fire wants to just go to heaven. Fire just wants to be spiritual. It wants to burn itself out. If you think about it for a second, it's the wax which keeps the flame intact. If it wasn't for the wax, it would burn out. This is a brilliant metaphor for the soul. The soul wants to escape the bodies. Now, I'm not sure if I mentioned this last class, but we believe that when you have people who suffer from addiction, alcoholic, drug addict, they are spiritual people. They're all spiritual people. They're not happy with the physical world. They want to do away with the physical world, just like a candle, just like a flame wants to burn itself out. So too, an alcoholic, an addict wants to be cleaved to the spiritual, doesn't want its body holding it back. It's a flame that flickers up. So a flame represents spirituality and to live for a higher purpose. And with this, we have the first video by Rabbi Label Wolf. And this meditation will help us appreciate the soul and how it is recognized within each and every one of us. Here we go. Well, there's going to be another video, but this is the first one. So, yeah.
We have two voices speaking to us from within. One voice is our lower order self, Nefesh Bahamis. The Nefesh Bahamis urges us to live a life of pleasure, of ease, getting what we want whenever we want it. The other voice is the voice of the Nefesh Elokis. That's our godly self. That's the self that seeks connectedness with people in love, connectedness with the world and its elements, feeling fulfilled, connectedness with Hashem. Gently close your eyes and just become aware of your inner self, your inner quiet, that place you can escape to, because it's always a place where you have your own sense of self. Allow that special place to be your refuge. that place of inner sanctity, totally protected, always safe. As you step out of that space, become aware of your two inner voices. Listen to the voice of the Nefesh Bahamis. Note what it tells you. It says, you're insecure in this world. You need to shore yourself up. You need more and more and more. Otherwise, you're unsafe. Build walls around you. Wealth. Create superficial pleasures because life is short. The Nefesh Bahamis is the voice of the ego. Now listen to the truer voice of the Nefesh Elokis, the voice that tells you that everything possesses truth and meaning, that your happiness and joy comes from connecting truly to people, to the world around you, by connecting to the inner selves, the soulful center. The voice that tells you pleasure doesn't come from material acquisition. It comes from the smile of appreciation for having helped someone, for the small gift that you give your grandchild, for the blue sky that you wake up to. In life, choose which voice you are going to listen to. It may be that you don't need to have a battle within, a fight between them. You might even be able to transform the Nefesh Bahamis into an ally, giving its energy the capacity to do the right things. But always allow yourself to recognize that your true voice is the voice of the Nefesh Elokis. In so doing, your life will be replete with happiness and fulfillment.
Okay. That exercise is very powerful. That exercise is called Hispanidus. As we said last week, there are 3 different meditations. Hispanidus is the idea of being alone, of meditating. What it really, in essence, is, it's subtraction. It's spirituality by subtracting the veneer. There's gold, there's treasures hidden within each and every one of us. There's a lot of noise. There's a lot of rubble. We have to be able to clear the rubble so that the treasure can be seen. Each and every one of us has precious treasure, has this soul which is engaged in battle with the animalistic tendencies. We are in effect clearing the rubble. We are allowing the soul to be itself. Every Wednesday morning, there's a class And this class, Esther, my wife, gives the class at 8:30, just for 15, 20 minutes. And it's fascinating. It intertwines with this week's Torah portion. This week's Torah portion is the first time in the history of the Torah, of the world, the clothes are not just the result of negativity. You see, there's two ways if you have a thief, and I mentioned it this morning, I filled in for Esther. If you have a thief, there are two ways you can approach a thief. Either you can scream at the thief, or you can take the crook and you can explain to the crook why it's bad to steal and win the thief over. This level of Hispanidus, of meditation, of getting rid of the trappings of the physical world, by subtraction, by being alone, by being secluded, we are trying to unleash the treasure. You could go up to the thief and say, go away. But the thief will just come back another time. There'll still be noise. You can run out into the forest and you can meditate in the forest. Hey, but the noise could follow you in the forest. The second way, which we are going to also deal with tonight, is called Hispanidus. It's to contemplate, it's to think, it's to do something active, not just to clear away the rubble, to get rid of the noise which distracts us from our daily life. The second way is to actually contemplate and to think in a positive way, to take the thief and explain it's not good for you to steal. It's pasnish, it's beneath you. You're a great guy. Why would you want to waste your life as a ganef, as a thief? There is Hispanidus, what we just experienced, where you focus on getting rid of the noise, letting the soul come out. And there is an active Hispanidus where you contemplate, where you think, where you try to create the spiritual energy through thought, that can filter down into each and every one of us and unleash the soul through grabbing it. One way is by pushing everything else out of the way, telling the thief, shooing it away, running away, and the thief will run away. And the other way is to take the thief, to take the world, and to think, contemplate within the world about godliness, about meditation, about spirituality. And you won't have to combat the thief, you won't have to combat the noise, but rather you can take the soul within each and every one of us and bring it out. So, having said that, we have over here on text 43, Shia, text number 5 on page 43.
The nature of a flame is to flicker upward, indicating that the flame intrinsically seeks to part from its wick in order to unite with its source above. Similarly, the human soul naturally desires and yearns to separate itself and escape its body in order to unite with its origin and source in God, the blessed source of all life.
Okay, now let's do text number 5, please, on page 43.
Hispanidus, seclusion, is one of the most superior of all distinguished practices. It is a practice of the greatest saints and the medium through which the prophets experienced revelation.
Okay. This is not a goal on its own right. What it is, as we explained, stripping away the distractions, telling the thief, shooing it away. But it is an inner aloneness. And we find that Maimonides' son, Abraham, he was very much a student of Hispanidus. It is absolutely a Jewish trait. And Shia, text number page 44, if you could read from the Shalom. The Shalom was a very great mystical rabbi, and he was born in Prague, and he ended up moving to Tveria. He's buried next to Maimonides. Please share text number 44.
The Kabbalist and author, that one?
No, text number 6, page 44. It is
Okay.
recorded.
It is recorded in many of the works of the medieval rabbis that seclusion, Hibodidut, separation from everything mundane, Perishut, and devotionally clinging to Veikut were practiced by the pious Jews. This is to say that when they were alone, they would empty their minds of all worldly concerns and connect their minds with the master of all existence. The famed Kabbalist Arizal taught that this practice is far more beneficial for the soul than study, and that every person should practice this seclusion meditation according to their ability, either once a week, once a fortnight, or at the very least once a month.
Okay. This is a way of Hashem. Yes, people should just contact me and we'll get you a copy of the book. Just send us a PM, a private message, and we'll organize to get you a copy of the book. But the thing is that this idea of Hispanidus, it's a way to Jewish practice, and they bring more quotes, a very sublime. There was a Rabbi Hai Goyen, and he used it for great spiritual heights. But the problem with Hispanidus is that there is great spiritual danger for those people who aren't knowledgeable to practice it. And therefore, the Mishnah actually says people should only do this if they know what they're doing. If they don't know what they're doing and they dabble in these spiritual teachings, it's not healthy, it's not good. First of all, you should know that the ultimate, I think everyone would agree, is to take the thief and teach the thief why it's not good to steal. But if that's hard, that's not easy. But if we can't do that, at least we can shoo away the thief. Okay. We on text number 8, Shia, page 47, if you could please read.
4 individuals entered the orchard, Pardes. They explored the Torah's mystical secrets. They are Ben Azai, Ben Zoma, Acher, and Rabbi Akiva. Ben Azai gazed at the divine presence and died. Ben Zoma gazed at the divine presence and became crazed. Acher gazed and chopped down the shoots of saplings. He became a heretic, and Rabbi Akiva merged safely.
Out of 4 people, they entered into the Pardes. That in Hebrew is called Pardes, an orchard. It stands for 4 levels of understanding the Torah. So only one, Rabbi Akiva, came out okay. And the reason is because Rabbi Akiva entered in peace. He had the stability. He had the balance, the equilibrium, what we spoke about last week, the Star of David. It wasn't just too much spiritual, it was also grounded with bringing it back to the physical world. And when you enter in peace, when you have balance, it's not just wanting and yearning for the sublime, but it's also having the balance of realizing that this physical world is the ultimate. And because he had exerted tremendous mental effort, he could experience things that the others couldn't experience, and he came out okay, Rabbi Akiva. Now, Hispanidus, we explained in the first class, our ancestors, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, Joseph, the brothers, not Joseph, They were shepherds because they wanted to be in solitude. They wanted to do Hispanidus. They wanted to understand spirituality. That is the first level. Of course, we believe it's a Jewish way. You have other Hasidic groups, the Breslov do it. They do it a little differently. I don't know if any of you have seen the fantastic movie called Ushpizin, where Reb Nachman of Breslov used to actually go alone, and then he would get his people to talk to God. That's what he does in that movie, Ushpizin. It's very real. It's a fantastic movie. It's a sincere movie. But ultimately, Chabad, we prefer the second way because we don't like being detached from the world. We're in this world to elevate the world. We're in this world to take the physical world and bring godliness into it. And therefore, the second way, which is called Hispanidus, and that comes from the word binah. Binah means to understand. We explained last week, Chokhmah is the first spark of intelligence, creativity. Binah is what takes that and elaborates it and spreads it out. This word Hispanidus is to contemplate, to understand. It doesn't take you away from the physical world. It makes your mind, it makes your being the battlefield for uncovering the treasure that is in each and every one of us. So if those of you who have the book, page 48, figure 2.1, you have Hispanidus, which means detaching from material engagement. And then you have Hispanidus, which means binah, to develop the spiritual awareness. One is detaching from the world, going into the field, being a shepherd, having nothing to do with the physical world. And the other one is engaging the world, but thinking and trying to understand. You know, perhaps the best parable is Hispanidus, the first way, opens the door by shooing away everything else. But Hispanidus means you enter inside by thinking, by unleashing thought and contemplation and appreciation for the spiritual. One thing is to shoo away the negative, to get rid of the rubble, to get rid of the noise by being alone. The other way is to enter inside the room, to think, to contemplate, to try and understand. It's not enough just to read, but to contemplate, to assimilate the information, because we are, after all, spiritual beings. Okay, so Shia, can you please read text number 49, page number 49, text number 9.
A central foundation of the study of mysticism is to repeatedly spend considerable time in deep contemplation on the subject matter being studied. This is the practice that is referred to as Hispanidus, which means to firmly visualize the concept and to analyze it deeply.
You know, when some people study, they don't just study, they see it. Someone who truly understands spirituality, I'll give you a beautiful example. Not many people know this. In the Gemara, in the Talmud, when they bring a proof, they say, Ta Shema, come and hear. What is hearing? Hearing is you don't see it. You're thinking about it. It's something you have to force yourself to assimilate, to appreciate. It's more detached hearing. You don't see it. In the Zohar, it doesn't say Tashma, come and hear. In the Zohar, in the Kabbalah, it says Chazi, come and see. Because when you're on a higher level of spirituality, when you don't live in the physical world, which blocks out the spirituality, that, as we explained, that makes the physical obvious and the spiritual sublime. When you are in the world of the Zohar of spirituality, you don't hear about God, you see God. So over here on page 50, text number 10, it's going off and continuing on this idea of visualizing the concept, analyzing it. Of course, we have to do that, visualize, analyze. It's hard to us because we're very physical, corporal beings. Physicality is obvious to us. Spirituality is in the heavens. But the truth is that in heaven, it's the exact way around. Spirituality is what's obvious. The physical world is something God created by concealing himself. That's not obvious. It all depends on the perspective. Shia, can you please read page 50, text number 10?
You shall take it to heart. This is a positive commandment to know God. We are enjoined to investigate and develop an appreciation of God's unity and not rely solely on received tradition. However, since the spiritual understanding of the divine is abstract and not easily understood, the verse emphasizes that we must take it to heart. The Hebrew term for take it in this verse more literally means return it, indicating that we must repeatedly contemplate the concept until it settles in our mind. The term take to heart always refers to a matter that requires profound concentration and extra focused thinking.
Okay, what does this mean? You know what this means? You have to work on it. It's not obvious. Spirituality doesn't just come to you like seeing it. You have to hear, you have to work it, you have to mull it over. Nothing is simple. Nothing is just a given. If God is hidden as he is in this world, we have to try and embrace God through groping in the dark and trying to understand godliness, and by visualizing, by thinking through Hispanidus. It's hard, it's not easy, but that's the ultimate way for us to appreciate God. She, can you please do page 51, text 11a?
Hispanidus is an internal dialogue with an idea. Once we have studied something well, in all its fine details, explanations, and commentaries, until we have developed a thorough understanding of it, the practice of Hispanidus meditation is to then mentally analyze the idea to verify whether our understanding is true and accurate in all its details. Through diligent meditation, we develop a strong visualization of the soul of the concept, which is the animating core of the idea itself.
Okay. What's very interesting is, there was once the Mizritcha Maggid. He was the successor to the Baal Shem Tov, the founder of the Hasidic movement. And he wanted to go and visit the Baal Shem Tov. And his father-in-law wasn't from the Hasidic persuasion. He said, you're going to waste so much time getting in the wagon, traveling to Mezhebush. What do you need this for? Why are you wasting time leaving your family, going to the Baal Shem Tov to study Torah? Says, because I need to know about God. And the father-in-law laughed, and he was an opponent of the Hasidic movement, and he went to his maid, and he said, tell me, is there a God? And she said, yes. So how do you know? So look at the world. Where else could the world come from? And the father-in-law turned to his son-in-law, and he said, here you are wasting time, leaving your family, going to this holy rabbi. Why? Because you want to know that there's a God. My simple cleaning lady, she doesn't need to travel and leave her family and waste resources to find out there's a God. She knows there's a God. Look, she said she knows there's a God. So this rabbi, the son-in-law, he was very smart, Reb Dov Ber. He told his father-in-law, she says there's a God. I know that there's a God. When you think, when you understand, when you contemplate, when you mull over something, When it becomes part of you, you're not just saying there's a God. You know, you feel, you see that there's a God. There's a very big difference. Shia, can you please do page 52, text 11b?
The Hasidic practice of Hitbonenut meditation involves actively contemplating a spiritual concept until it expands our creative intelligence, deepens our awareness, and becomes an indelible part of our consciousness.
Now, last week, we asked the question. We asked the question, how can the chaplain in the army tell the troops, do not be afraid? You can't do that. You can't tell someone, don't have fear. Either you have it or you don't have it. You can't force a person to have an emotion. The same question is in page 52, text number 12. She, you want to read, please? Page 52, text number 12.
Through honest contemplation with deep focus, a person's soul develops an authentic closeness and attachment with God, commensurate to their spiritual standing. Through this, one fulfills the mitzvah to love God.
The question is, how can you command a person to love God? It's a mitzvah. We say it in the Shema. Either you have the emotion or you don't have the emotion. You can't be commanded to love chocolate ice cream. Either you like it or you prefer vanilla. That's your prerogative. You can't force an emotion. You can't force the people going to war. Don't be as scared. They're scared. Leave them alone. The answer is, before you say V'ahavta et Hashem Elokecha v'chol levavecha v'chol nafshecha in the Shema, when you say that mitzvah, you should love Hashem your God with all your heart and all your soul. Before you say V'ahavta, it says Shema. It says Shema Yisrael, hear, O Israel, the Lord is our God, the Lord is one. When you say Shema, it doesn't just mean hear, it means understand, think, contemplate. That is the mitzvah. That is the mitzvah of loving God. You know how you can love God? If you think about God. Through thought, it trickles down into emotion. Just like we said last week, if you think about certain things and you're sure about certain things, the soldiers will not be smitten with terror. Okay, we are going to do now something amazing. We're going to do an exercise, and this exercise is a meditation exercise. And it's going to teach us, we're going to do the original text. The original text is by the Rebbe Rashab, the 5th Lubavitcher Rebbe, on page 54, text number 13, and this is very, very profound. We are going to take a Hasidic concept and we are going to think about it. We are going to do meditation on this concept, which is on page 54 in the student handbook, text 13.
Everything that exists is comprised of a physical form and a spiritual, divine energy that creates and animates the entity's physical existence. This is clearly demonstrable in animals and humans. They have an animating spirit. If the spirit were to leave their body, the body would no longer be classified as alive, and the body would begin to decompose and turn to dust. That is because the very existence of the body hinges upon the spiritual energy that animates it. The same is true of vegetation. It also possesses an animating spirit. Even inanimate objects possess some sort of energizing spirit that keeps them in existence and prevents their disappearance. Based on this awareness, spirituality is referred to as good and life because it is a living force that remains alive and in existence forever. Whereas physical matter is referred to as negative and death because it decomposes and ceases to exist without the spirit within it and has no means of existing independently. From my flesh, I can perceive God, meaning that human experience informs our understanding of God. We intuitively sense that we have a life force that provides us with our life, and that is primary identity, and that were our soul to leave our body, the body would be left like an inanimate rock and eventually decompose and disappear. The same is true with all that exists. The entire cosmos and all its contents exists due to a divine spirit that gives existence to everything. That divine light and force is the entire life and sustaining power of all that exists. If it departs, all existence will revert to absolute nothingness. If we meditate on this idea, we will realize that the material existence of each entity is entirely dependent on the spiritual force within it, and that physicality is nullified before the presence of the divine light that is its source of existence. This realization will inspire a powerful desire and yearning for the divine. We'll no longer desire that which exists only superficially, and which is in fact death, decomposing and disappearing. All we will desire is to attach to the divinity that is true life and the mainstay of existence.
Okay. What we're going to do now is I'm going to summarize it, and then we're going to explain it. It's very, very beautiful. Number one, everything has a divine soul. It doesn't matter what it is, doesn't matter what part of creation. Everything has a soul in it. That's number one. Number two is spiritual soul is the source of life. Life is not just the physicality of breathing, of living, of eating, of self-preservation. Life is the spiritual soul. That's what sustains life. That is real life. And number three, this aspect of the soul, this is what we have to value. Steve Pollock is with us tonight. He shared with me something, I never saw it, that Steve Jobs, he died at 56, he wrote. And it's very, very powerful. I was going to do it at the end of the class. But just what we value with the life we are given. If you turn so pretty much before we go to page 56, everything has a body and a soul. There is the act, and there is the content to the act. See here, let's do this on the message board. On page 56 of the student handbook, exercise 2.4. There's a body and there's a soul. Let me give you an example. If you have dinner with a spouse or a close friend, what's the body? You want to text, or because we have so many people? What's the body in that act? I'll do the first one. The body is the meal, the dinner. What's the soul? The soul is the relationship. Let's do another one. You discipline a child. It's a physical act. What is the body in that act? Okay. The discipline, correct. What is the soul? The growth and the love of the child. Let's do another one. You exercise at the gym. There's the body, the workout, and what's the soul? The soul is the health. You're at the gym for health reasons, not just because you want to work out. Let's say you do a business deal. You shake hands. What's the body? The shaking hands. What's the soul? The trust that the deal will go forward. Everything in life has a body and a soul. Unfortunately, too many times, because we're physical, we are obsessed with a physical lens. But sometimes we can get an appreciation for the soul, for the spiritual energy. Now they have, when you want to go on the internet, some cars, you can actually get in the car and drive the car, and it becomes three-dimensional. When you add the soul, to the equation, it's a different car. It's 3 dimensionals. Let's do art. Maybe if someone who's experienced in art, maybe you want to unmute yourself and tell us about why you get excited when you see a bunch of, in art, some 2-dimensional lines and shapes and colors. If someone likes art, you want to unmute themselves, or you can go on the message board and do it on the message board. Why there's a bunch of colors and shapes, and why would you get excited from that? You have anything?
No, if you want to mute.
Well, we'll unmute you. I'm sorry, we'll unmute. Here we go. Unmute. Oh, here we have. A person's creativity stimulates. It was a good answer.
Okay.
Went so fast. I'm sorry. Here we go. A person's creativity stimulates more art production. Okay. Is the only. Okay. Good. That's great. That's great. Okay, I'm saying. Yeah, person's creativity about the art. Yeah, and I gotta get a copy of we're gonna go through the messages, please.
Yeah.
Okay,
Well, we have 2 so far.
so I saw Wendy's, Lane. The visual resonates with the soul. So behind the visual, there's a spiritual story.
If anyone wants to talk, I could unmute.
Yeah, unmute maybe.
Well,
Because maybe it's
I
hard
have to ask them if they.
If you want to talk, just tell us, and I don't understand. What's share?
Try.
Can they talk?
Let me try.
We're gonna try and unmute you guys. So it's not just colors and shapes.
You can unmute if you want.
Okay, how do you? If you want to unmute, you can unmute and say something. The whole idea of art, it's not body shapes, canvas, lines, colors. There's a story behind it. That is the soul. So what we're trying to do is, we're trying to add an understanding that when you meditate, when you think about the spiritual, it's a different planet, it's a different world, it's a different reality. When you think about the physical, what you see, what your tangible corporal eyes perceive, yeah, it's lines, it's shapes, it's colors. But the whole idea why people love art is because of the soul of art. They love what it means. Not just what it's physical. There's a message behind it. That message is the soul. Okay, art gives you strong feelings, very good. The visual, okay? These are all good. Art isn't just mumbo jumbo lines. It's a spirituality behind the physical. Okay. So we believe that the spiritual is everything. We believe that that's the ultimate. We believe that makes a body special? The soul. If a body doesn't have a soul, it's dead. It gets buried. What makes something special is the soul that gives it life and meaning. That is what it's all about. And ultimately, that is what spirituality does. Now, Shia, please, text number 14, page 57.
This day I call upon heaven and earth as witness that I have warned you. I have set before you life and death, the blessing and the curse. You shall choose life so that you and your offspring will live.
So it's the obvious question on the bottom of the page 57 of the student handbooks. The choice between life and death seems obvious. Why would God need to encourage us to choose life? So what do you think the answer is? After everything we learned, you know what it is? The answer is, don't take the physical, take the soul, what it means. Don't be misled by what your eyes see and what your hands feel. Take the soul of the matter. Take the spirituality. That's what God is saying, choose life. Not don't just choose life because it looks pretty, it looks good. Choose life and see the essence, the soul of the matter. Okay, Shia, can you please read text number 15, page 58?
The Torah instruct us, love the Lord your God because he is your life. When we love ourselves is the state of life that our souls provides that we love because we sense that is our core self. By the same token, we shall love God, for he is the source of life for all existence. When we meditate on the reality that divinity is the life of all life, we will desire and love God. Consequently, in all our interactions with the externality of the universe, such as eating or drinking, conducting business, and so on, our focus will shift from the material and corporeal elements to embrace the divinity within them.
Okay, this is very profound. What's going on over here is that what we're saying is that it's up to us to choose. It's up to us to appreciate. It's up to us not to get caught up because we are physical people. We do see the physical. We have to go beyond the physical and appreciate the spiritual. We have to be prepared to look beyond the veneer and appreciate the soul. And we use meditation for this. Now, we're going to play the second video. And after we play the second video, we'll explain the difference between physicality of the first one, which was Hispanidus, running away from the world and meditating. And the second way of Hispanidus, actually thinking. Please. This is the second video.
We have two voices.
No, this is it. No.
Speaking to us from within. One voice is our lower order self,
We need to.
Nefesh Bahamis. The Nefesh Bahamis.
This one, this one.
Spirituality means to sense viscerally how meaningful every single moment and item of life is, which means to enter into a relationship soul to soul, and we can do so with everything that we find in our daily activities. So gently close your eyes and just become aware of a source of light in your head, pleasant, warm, spreading throughout your head space, enlightening, animating, and flowing down into your lower body, feeling comfortable and warm. Intensify that light source so it spreads through your limbs allowing them to feel animated, special, with Hashem's light, that light which is your soul's light. Everything possesses a soul spark. The stone also has a soul. If you peer into the stone and are able to see molecules, atoms, smaller particles even, all these are energies that are manifested. Beneath each of these lies a spiritual force. The spiritual force of a stone is nefesh. A flower also possesses a soul spark, but it's more developed. It's called ruach, allowing the flower to have locomotion, movement, growth, inclination towards the sun. It has both nefesh and ruach. The animal has an even more advanced soul system. It has the nefesh to maintain its physical state, ruach providing it with animation, movement, but also neshama, which provides it with rudimentary communication capacity. And then there's the human being, who possesses all three, plus the level of soul known as chaya, the level of soul that provides consciousness, awareness of the flow of time, present, past, and future, hopes, aspirations, values, beliefs. We encounter all four levels in life. Allow that encounter to be soul to soul, recognizing that everything possesses value, godliness, purpose, and only by relating spiritually to the essence of that soul do we connect meaningfully, live a deep and meaningful life.
So just to sum up, I'm going to take everyone off mute. Can we take everyone off mute?
Yes. Well, I could ask them to unmute.
Yeah, you all have the ability to be taken off mute if you want to say something, and I can answer questions. But the bottom line is, we go now back to the original analogy of looking for the buried treasure, which Isaac did. Each and every one of us, we have buried treasure within us. One way is to simply clear the rubble, Hispanidus, isolate ourselves, get rid of the noise of the world, scream at the ganef, at the thief, and they'll shoo away. You'll get rid of the rubble, you'll get rid of the noise by isolation. The other way is to engage the physical world, to have to do with other people. And then, when you are strong enough within yourself to embrace others, to think about things, to understand things properly, you're not scared of the physical noise, of the rubble. The thief now doesn't have to be a thief because you have elevated, you have taken the chest, which was buried deep, and elevated it above. The whole idea is there is a treasure within us. How do you access that treasure? The second way is an active way of being on top of life and thinking about things and making this appreciation of the soul. This is one example. There are many things to meditate about. But this idea of the soul, the meaning, the purpose, the vitality, that's the soul. And when we stress that, when we understand that, when we appreciate that, it's a much more powerful way to harness the spiritual energy. Okay, here we have, do we have any questions or if people want to speak? I mean, I just want to make sure that we go through the course because there's so much to cover. But now, please, if you want to unmute yourself here. Roger says, can meditation help us to get in touch with our soul and to see the treasures in others? Yes. When we pick ourselves up to a higher level, when we unleash the treasure which we have within ourselves, then we appreciate that each one of us was God breathed into. God has given us a soul, a piece of God. And the more we meditate about that, it's meditating about the deeper reality. And I'll read you, this thing from Steve Jobs. Maybe you guys have all seen it. But Steve Pollock showed it to me, and it was very, very powerful. He have a man, sadly, painfully smitten with cancer. And here he comes to the realization of what really matters in life. Here he goes like this. He says, material things lost can be found, but there is one thing that can never be found when it is lost, and that is life. Whatever stage of life we are currently in, with time, we will face it the day the curtain closes. Love your family, spouses, and friends. Treat them right. Cherish them. As we get older and wiser, we slowly realize that wearing a $300 or $300 watch both give the same hour. Whether we have a $300 or $300 wallet or purse, the amount inside is the same. Whether we drive a $150,000 car or $30,000 car, the road, the distance is the same, and we arrive at the same destination. The idea is that when you see that certain physical things merely mask the world and they block out the soul, we don't appreciate the value the soul, meaning, purpose. That is what Hasidic philosophy is teaching us to think about, to appreciate, to internalize that each and every one of us has a soul which we have to do justice to, and we have to try and unplug, unleash, and bring into our daily life. Does anyone have any questions? That's the whole idea. The beginning and the end are connected. And the reason why the beginning and the ends are connected, because the beginning we spoke about finding the treasure. You can find the treasure not just by going through rubble, but by the treasure coming out, because you take the thief and you explain to our animalistic tendencies, hey, this is not the way to do it. And then the thief gets won over and he won't want to steal in the future. It's elevating the physical. Yeah, does any questions, anything? Anyone want to say something? Chuck, you want to? Oh. Anyway, for me, this is very, very exciting because it's taking life, and it's adding a tremendous amount of meaning to it. Now, I'll tell you a little secret. It sounds like we're down on the physical world, not at all. We believe in the Kabbalah and spiritual teachings that the higher something is, the lower it falls down. So we believe the physical things come from a very high spiritual source. The ultimate is to take the physicality and to reveal God within it. If God just wanted us to be spiritual, he wouldn't have created the physical world. We could have stayed in heaven. The reason why God created this physical world is so that we could elevate it, we could make it holy, we could find the treasure within the ground and not go against the physicality of the world, but elevate everyone and everything and every part of creation. That's embracing the world. We're not scared of the music. We're not scared of the rubble. We're not scared of the thief. We make the thief part of the mission. True, the physical world it's difficult, it's painful, it conceals God. We don't see the truth, but our mission is to reveal God, to take all the negativity and to find within it spirituality. The world isn't a jungle, it's God's garden. We're in this world to make a difference, to elevate it. And these two meditations, the first one, the idea of getting things out of your mind, Hispanidus, and the second one, the idea of thinking about trying to find the soul in everything we do, these two meditations will help us practically in life. And if you thought this was exciting, lesson number 3 next week is even more exciting as we continue meditation from Sinai, a brand new, real perspective of taking meditation and bringing hope and infusing positivity in everything we do. I want to wish you all only brachas, a good week, a happy week, a healthy week. You are now equipped with a positive, upbeat, dynamic approach to the world. And because we understand it this way, we'll be able to accomplish so much more. Thank you very much for joining us. Next week, Wednesday night at 7:30. Have a wonderful, wonderful evening, and only good news. And if you have any questions, I can hang around and answer questions. Whatever's good.
Rabbi.
Yes, please.
Hey, hi. Thank you,
Hey,
Yeshua.
Elaine.
Who was the rabbi that was on the videos?
His name is Rabbi Label Wolf, and he's from Melbourne, Australia. And we actually many years ago brought him to Columbia.
Not her. Check the list.
And he's a meditation. That's his forte. Like,
yeah, he is actually a Chabad rabbi. When I was a kid, he taught me in school, and he's a good man. What can I say? But this is what he does. This is his specialty. And thank you for participating. I appreciate each and every one of you very, very much. And if you have any questions, I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you so much.
Okay,
Beautiful.
it's a pleasure. Thank you.
Yeah, my question wouldn't be as optimistic. I hate to say, I just see what's happening in the world, and you look at you talk about the thief, how you'd handle the thief, with this, smash and grab stuff. I'm not sure these people are quite reachable. I'd love to have an optimistic attitude and say there was a way to help them, but I think you got to know what's motivating them, and I'm not sure what direction to take. Some people, yes, I agree with you. You find the positive, and maybe you can help those people, but I hate to say it. I just don't know if I can take that approach with a large group of people.
Okay, if you think about the world now, it's a shaky place. Russia's about to invade, and once that happens, it's going to happen with China and Taiwan. There's a lot of instability in the world. So let me tell you what the Rebbe did when this happened. We believe in the body and the soul. So the secret is to focus on the soul. And if you focus on the soul, that will help the body. We believe, there's a fantastic book. It's called, and I mentioned it last time, it's called Positivity Bias. It's a book about the Rebbe's view on sickness and how to get out of problems. We believe in concentrating on the soul. So the world is shaky right now. Listen, you can't live in delusion. The world, with things going on, it is shaky. It is. So the Rebbe used to say, it says in the Torah and the Mishnah that the world stands on three things: on Torah, studying Torah, on prayer, avoda, and gemilut chasadim, acts of kindness. Whenever the world is in a shaky place, our mission, our job is to increase the foundations of the world. We have to add in Torah, studying Torah, we have to add in prayer, we have to add in acts of goodness and kindness, because that's the soul of the world. Yeah, we feel pretty helpless here when things are about to explode, but that's all we can do, If you add in the foundations of the world, that's the soul, that's the spiritual side, then that will trickle down, just like the Rebbe said, think good or be good. Even though people are going through hard, painful times, but when you think positive, that's when it could trickle down into the physical world. And when you do the acts of goodness and kindness in those three spheres, prayer, Torah, and charity, that is the real foundations of the world that makes the world a more stable place. Anyway, that's our response to darkness is light, and adding in those three positive things helps bring stability to a very shaky world. Anyway, next Wednesday at 7:30, it just gets more and more exciting every single week. Thank you all for coming. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, guys. Bye.